Possibly the most critical part of a business, any business, and the most underappreciated, I believe, is the role that customer service plays before, during, and long after the business takes place with the customer. Our guest today has been involved in serving customers for 43 years. Hi there. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Airing It Out with AirVent. My name is pscelsi. I host AirVent's Attic Ventilation Ask the Expert seminars offered every winter to residential roofing professionals all across North America since 1998. Shelley Dubé is Customer Service Manager at AirVent in the Peoria, Illinois office, about 150 miles outside of Chicago. AirVent is part of the Gibraltar Building Accessories Division, which manufactures not only attic ventilation products, but also metal roofing, soffit systems, gutters and gutter protection, flashing, and much more. Shelley was one of the first employees hired by AirVent, and she began her AirVent career in 1979, and she's been in a customer service role ever since. I'm thrilled to welcome to the podcast my coworker, Shelley Dubé. Welcome to the podcast, Shelley.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for letting me have this little talk with you.
Thank you, Sean. I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic, and I've been working with you for a very long time. Shelley, 43 years. I mean, that just is so amazing to me. Tell us how you landed the AirVent position. How did it all begin, please?
I will tell you, way back then, I worked for a brief period of time for Alcoa Building Products, had a siding plant in a little town close to Peoria in Princeville, Illinois, and they made a metal ridge vent called Venta Ridge. And anyway, a girlfriend in town worked there, and she asked me if after I got out of high school if I wanted to work at Alcoa. And so I did briefly. But then in the meantime, some of the former Alcoa workers left Alcoa and started AirVent. And one day, kind of out of the blue, and I think I was going to a junior college or doing something else. And one day she called me and she said, "Hey, you want to come, work at AirVent? You can make samples in the back." And, we just started with a new customer. You can, take orders, and the rest is history. And, it was a roto dial phone and a big scratch pad of paper, and that's just kind of how it began, and then it evolved from there.
Shelley, I love that you basically are part of the foundational days of the company.
Yeah.
I think that's so amazing to me.
Yeah. I've seen a lot.
Shelley, how would you define customer service, please?
Well, I think it's changed now, Paul, because they call it customer experience now.
Yes.
Because I think what it means is from the minute you pick up the package or click on a link or see a picture of something you like, it's your whole interaction with that product or service. So that's what I define customer service now. So it's not maybe 40 years ago, it was just when you called a number and who you were talking to. And I think it's so much more now. And even in terms of internally, how we work with each other as a company, with each other. So those internal customer service and external customer service. And I really think that's true.
Shelley, thank you for introducing that word experience, that customer experience, not just customer service. Great. Thanks for bringing that up early in this conversation, because Shelley, I personally believe how the customer service / experience interaction plays out to a large extent represents the company itself, the brand. And I believe you, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Your thoughts, please, Shelley, on that.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. It is true that we are the face to the customer in this room. But like I said, because of how everything has evolved with technology and our digital world, it's what people see or read on the internet or on Facebook or on Twitter or your website, or how they interact or how they feel, or it may even be them, the contractor showing you their slideshow or our AirVent app, Paul. So it really is not just the customer service rep answering the phone. It's all aspects of
Yes.
of the interaction. It's all of it. So if you don't have a website that's current or interactive or has the most current knowledge, or your, even the seminars that you conduct, Paul, that's 100% customer service, and that's our brand and that's our face. And so thankfully we kind of have a handle on how to see, that it's not just consumers, it's architects, it's contractors, it's building inspectors, it's the wholesalers too. So it's a lot of things, and that's our brand.
It is. Shelley, boy, you're bringing up so many things I want to talk about. Thank you. And the extensiveness of who we, customer service, AirVent, Gibraltar, interact with. So Shelley, customer service, it's actually not just limited to customers. It's also potential customers, people considering doing business with AirVent, with Gibraltar, for example. Or it might just be people who have general questions. Maybe they're doing a little research for a future home project. These people, as you just mentioned, Shelley, these people could include roofing professionals, retailers, wholesalers, homeowners, and your role, Shelley, and your staff, your team's role, interacting with people. These people have a wide range of knowledge, experience about the products and services AirVent offers, from very little knowledge to quite a bit of knowledge. What a roofing contractor asks about attic ventilation is likely very different than what a homeowner asks, and what an architect asks, and a retailer, wholesaler, etc. Shelley, I imagine this in itself poses some challenges to how you and your team provide the needed information to the person. In other words, you have to personally be well-versed in the subject matter, and then you got to be ready to adjust the depth of the information you provide to people. Any tips, Shelley, for our listeners on how to do that well, how to tailor your responses to the customer?
Yeah, and besides, there's a piece of it that's intuitive, but you really have to know who you're talking to. So you're right. A consumer isn't as interested with, the science of the whole thing, or listen to 15 minutes about the Bernoulli effect. But you can pare it down or make it more user friendly, and that's why we have such great information. We have so many resources that we can use with our website now, and just explaining to it. But you really have to identify. The first thing you do in here is you identify who you're talking to.
Yes.
Because if you're talking to, someone that just wants to fill an order of your product, they're not, they just want to do their business. So as we kind of wear some different hats in this room, taking orders, fulfilling orders, consumer calls, warranty calls, and the whole gamut. But you have to know, identify who you're talking to, and then use our resources. And then we continually train and read and make sure we're kind of keeping up with the industry in terms of the expectations of the customer. But it has evolved, Paul, because it used to be the consumer had really didn't care that much about the science of keeping their attic cool or what vents did. It was truly something that the roofing professional kind of did, and they weren't that interested. But people are truly interested now, and they want to know more about it because it affects their heating bills and everything about their home, and one of their big investments. So, yeah. So you have to know who you're talking to. That's just rule number one, and then identify their needs.
Shelley, sometimes the role of customer service involves talking to unhappy people, and I as an extension. In my small role, assisting with technical questions, it's a very small part, but I do get a taste for it. Your team gets a full-time taste of what it could be like. Unhappy people, they might be unhappy with the product that they purchased, the service they received, maybe, justified or not. It happens. It's just a fact of doing business. Sometimes people are pretty upset. They may yell. They may curse. They could be flat out rude. And then here you are, Shelley, you and your team, you're in front receiving this. Any strategies you can share, Shelley, for avoiding stooping to the level of the upset customer and instead keeping that interaction as professional and as calm as can be?
Well, that's that is inherent of a customer service person. You have to understand how to kind of diffuse the situation. I've found out that really they wouldn't be upset for no reason. So you kind of, you can empathize with them, you can sympathize with them, you can find out kind of the root cause of the whole problem and be patient. And I found out if I talk in the calm tone of voice the entire time, it kind of helps rather than, raising my voice as high as theirs. So I think that helps. I think if you just talk calmly and be transparent and try and build a rapport and a little bit of trust, because even if you can't tell them exactly what they want to hear, you can tell them the best information that you can. And I just feel like patience and honesty is just the best thing to do.
Shelley, you do have a very calm voice. I mean, just from talking with you over the years, that's a little bit of a weakness of mine, and I admire that in you, staying calm throughout that interaction. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. As a team, as a manager of a team, Shelley, of customer service representatives over the years, how have you kept your staff energized and motivated without them feeling, these are my words, beat down by upset customers? And I realize, Shelley, most interactions with customers are generally positive, all in all. But I got to believe it's human nature as a customer service representative to feel that your day, maybe your whole week, could be flat out turned upside down by an upset customer. What do you tell your team in those situations, Shelley?
Well, we hold each other up. We have a great sense of humor, and sometimes we just kind of, talk it through and talk each other down and just, just hoping the next call won't be as bad as the former call. But, generally everybody's pretty great. So those, when those situations happen, and we kind of have, like I said, we hold each other up and figure out ways to decompress, and kind of have a sense of humor about it. So.
Good approach, Shelley.
Yeah.
Shelley, when you're interacting with an unhappy customer and a positive outcome is likely not possible as viewed by that customer, how can customer service professionals still try to end that interaction on a somewhat positive note?
Well, I think we try and emphasize the, in the case of a ventilation issue, what the proper steps, should have been, or things to ask your roofer about that could have been, or like I said before, honesty and transparency. I think honesty always works better every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other than trying to promise something you can't do, or you're not capable of, and just understanding that we're people too. So, but I really think people appreciate honesty and transparency.
Shelley, to me, the role of customer service is largely a giving role. Employees who work in customer service, customer experience roles, they just give a lot of themselves to others. Do you personally do anything to recharge your battery each day to take time for Shelley?
Well, I have a pretty long drive, so in order to relax, I usually listen to like podcasts, and I like crime podcasts. I know that sounds pretty weird, but
I like that.
that's how I relax. That's how I relax. It has nothing to do with this job. It's just I enjoy it. So
sure. Shelley, do you encourage your customer service team to decompress as well?
Oh, absolutely. And they all have their outlets, whether it's exercise or, whatever their hobbies may be. But sure, I always, you need to push back from it and get away from it, especially during our busy season, which is in the summer. It gets, you might have just call after call after call. Just sometimes you just need to log off the phone and get away from it for a little bit. Go take a walk around the parking lot and just breathe.
Shelley, with 4 decades of serving customers under your belt, what key tips would you pass along to our listeners specific to customer service success, regardless of the industry?
I think you should have a complete understanding of your business. And I think understanding how all aspects of your product or service work, so I think you should understand how your product from beginning to end, how it's made, how marketing does, how it goes to market, how it's packaged, even the competition. So I think if you have an understanding of what you're representing versus just walking in cold and being like, how may I help you? Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Yeah. So I truly think training shouldn't just be how you talk on the phone, but maybe, working a day with, the marketing people or the packaging people or the shipping people or whatever service you're selling, kind of have an understanding of the entire business.
Shelley, I believe that makes the people in that role more of a resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shelley, any tips for managers of a customer service staff?
I think empowering your customer service people, letting them make decisions and supporting them, even when maybe they didn't make the 100% best decision in this scenario. I think and everybody's unique. And I think you have to understand that and build to that uniqueness and be patient and like I said, let them make independent decisions, because it's been my personal experience. I don't know about you, but when you call somewhere and you have to get put on hold 7 times because they're asking somebody else because they clearly don't know, I think that's a real turnoff. Yes. So I feel like you give that person, the power to pull the resource or fix the product or fix the problem. I think that speaks volumes to your company, about your company.
Yes. During your long career of serving customers, Shelley, is there a particular funny or unusual encounter or request you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, there's been so many, but this one in particular always sticks out on my mind. There was um, an elderly lady in the state of Texas, and she had a whole house fan in her bedroom or hallway. And every time it came on, she had kittens and it scared her kittens. So she wrote a letter to the president of the company. I don't know if you were here then or not, Paul.
I don't know if I remember it. I don't think so.
Okay, well, she wrote a letter to the president of the company and copied the attorney general in Texas because
boy.
She was so upset about her scared kittens. Well, I got the letter and I called her. And so right away, we bonded. I love cats. She loves cats. So we bonded about that. And I empathized with her. And I think we ended up like sending someone out to tighten the belt or make her fan less loud. But it was kind of, it was different. And
Sure.
She was, it was, so never underestimate, or trivialized because what upsets somebody, because that was, life and death for her. And in the meantime, everyone, behind all the people behind me just thought it was hilarious, but it was really she didn't want scared kittens. So
no.
I'll never forget that.
I love that story. Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
You handled that well too. I like it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned the letter, Shelley, because I wanted to visit with you about the ways people can contact. So, Shelley, when you started in customer service, 1979, the only way customers could contact you, if I'm not mistaken, was either a phone call or a letter in the mail, in the U.S. mail. This is 1979. Over the decades, the forms of communication have expanded. Faxes, which are now kind of going away, but still faxes, email, websites, social media, apps. You've experienced the invention of all of that on the job. Shelley, any tips for business leaders on making it easy for potential customers, to contact a business and responding in a timely manner?
I just want to say, I feel like to some extent it's a little bit harder to find a person. Don't get me wrong, but because everything's social media and it's typing, emails, just make sure you stay accessible. Make sure whatever phone system you have or whatever media you have, make sure you're still accessible because sometimes people want to talk to people. Mm-hmm. And so stay accessible. I'm a firm believer in that.
Shelley, I've been on the receiving end of phone calls, customer service, referred a roofer to me to troubleshoot a project. And one of the first things said is customer service answered the phone, meaning your team. So for someone to say that to me means it's maybe not happening as often as it should be in other businesses.
And that's why I said it. And then I think you should empower your people to do everything they can to fulfill all the needs of that caller and not just transfer them all around or, you have to call another number. I mean, sometimes we do pull in help like you, Paul, or, an engineer or whatever the case may be. But generally, you want the person hanging up to walk away feeling satisfied and not like, everything did get answered, or I'm so upset I'm going to call back, or now I have to write a letter, or I'm going to write a bad review, whatever it is. It's unique and it's challenging now versus, the old roto dial phone. So.
Shelley, as we wrap up this episode, is there anything you'd like to add for our listeners, either about customer service or anything in general?
I want to thank you, Paul pscelsi, for everything you've done for AirVent.
Wow.
As you know, I'm retiring soon, and I don't know if you hear thank you enough. With your seminars and your positive attitude and your energy, it I think it brings a lot to AirVent, and it means a lot to know that you're out there training contractors and reps and customers. And I just want to take this time to thank you. And it's been a pleasure working with you, Paul. And I will miss, the people. So.
Well, thank you so much, Shelley. That was so kind of you. Yes, Shelley is retiring. And Shelley, I have enjoyed working with you so much. And I'm only in my 27th year. I'm saying only because it doesn't even come close to your tenure. But you've been very instrumental in helping me learn. And I've looked up to you. And I don't want to make this a sappy podcast, but thank you so much, Shelley, for everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for letting me have this opportunity to talk about customer service and how important it is to a company. So
you're welcome. And thank you again for your time, Shelley. I really enjoyed this conversation. The interaction between a business's customer service and the actual customers or potential customers can have more impact than the product or service offered. Give it its due attention. Well, that wraps up this episode. Please leave a review on YouTube or whatever platform you used to listen to this episode. Be sure to let us know if there's a topic you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Maybe you'd like to be a guest one day, like Shelley was a guest. Drop us a note on the podcast page of our website, airvent.com. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And please come back for more Airing It Out with AirVent. I'm Paul Pscelsi. Thanks for listening.